Today we're learning about percent of change. Let's talk about a little bit of vocabulary. Percent of change is the percent by which a number changes. When a number changes, an amount changes, it can increase or it can decrease. So the percent of change is the percent by which an amount increases or decreases. If you have decreasing, a percent decreasing, then it's describing that the quantity went down. And if you have a percent of increase, the percent change is describing an increase in quantity. So how do you find the percent of change? Here are the steps. Find the amount of increase or decrease. Find the amount by which it changed by subtracting the lesser, smaller number from the greater number. You just want the difference between the two numbers. Once you find the difference, you need to find the original amount. The original amount will be your denominator. The last step is to divide the amount of change, the difference, by the original amount as shown here. So you'll subtract the new amount from the original, or whichever one's greater, divide that by the original amount, and then you'll get a decimal, which will change to a percent of change. Let's try one together. The temperature increased from 60 degrees to 75 degrees. Oh, I wish it was 75 degrees. Okay, find the percent of increase. So the first thing we need to do is subtract the smaller amount from the greater amount. So I'm going to do 75 minus 60. 75 minus 60 is 15. Now, I find the original amount. What was the original amount? Well, it started at 60 and it went up to 75. So I'm going to put 15 over 60. And the last step is I need to convert this into a decimal. Converting a fraction to a decimal, you divide the bottom number into the top number. But sometimes it's helpful if you can reduce it to a smaller number. Then it's helpful to have smaller numbers. So let's see, what's a number that can go into 15 and 60? Oh, I don't know. What about 5? 5 goes into 15 3 times. 5 goes into 60 12. Is there anything that goes into 3 and 12? 3. 1/4. If you know what 1/4 is as a fraction and as a decimal and as a percent, then you saved yourself a lot of work. But if you don't, now you have a small enough number that you can divide the bottom into the top. 4 can't go into 1. 4 can go into 10 2 times. I can add as many zeros behind the decimal as I'd like. The 4 can go into 25 times. So I have a decimal, and I need to change it to a percent by moving the decimal over 2 places. Moving the decimal over 2 places signifies multiplying times 100. A percent is out of 100. So the percent of increase was 25%. All right, we're going to set up the next one, and you're going to try to see if you can work it out on your own. So Mrs. Gardner's Kesher recorded the total number of books read per month. In November, they read 65 books, and in December, they read 52. What's the approximate percent of decrease? Oh, they read less books. That's not good. So we always subtract the numbers to find the difference. In this case, they were reading more in November, and then they read less in December. I'm just going to subtract 65 minus 52. 65 minus 52, 13. And now I need to find the original amount. What was the original? Well, the original amount was how many books they read in November. So I need to put 13 over 65. So I try to think if I can reduce this to make it easier, and I can't think of anything that goes into 13 and 65, so I'm just going to have to divide, and it's okay. 13, it won't go into 13, so then I try 130. Well, if you want to see how many times 65 can go into 130, you got to kind of think about, well, how many times would 6 go into 13? It would go about 2 times. And when you multiply it, 10, carry the 1, times 12, 2 times 6 is 12, plus 1 is 13. It is exactly 130. We got lucky. So now I have a decimal. I need to change it to a percent. I need to move the decimal place over 2 places. That signifies multiplying times 100. And I don't have anything in this other blank, so I need to put a 0 there. So they decreased by 20. It was a 20% decrease because it went down from 65 to 52. It was a percent of decrease. This one went up. The temperature went up. So this one was a percent of increase. So you're going to try the last one on your own. It says try on your own, and raise your hand for Ms. Wiggins or Ms. Gardner to check you so you can move on to the next activity.